What's up, y'all? You're now listening to the What Now podcast. I'm Dr. Spencer Dupre, owner of Empower Chiropractic.
And I am Dr. Zach Thompson, owner of Within Chiropractic. The purpose of this podcast is to document and share the experiences of two young business owners as we open our own brick-and-mortar chiropractic practices. Join along as we discuss all of our wins, our losses, insights, and the many, many lessons we learned.
As a disclaimer, none of this is ever intended to be medical, legal, or financial advice. Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another awesome episode of the What Now podcast. I'm Dr. Spencer Dupre, trap horns, and Zach Thompson. What's up, dude?
What's up? What it do, boo? How
What's
you
up?
feeling? How you living?
Good, man. Let's just get right into it, dude. Congratulations on you getting engaged.
Congratulations to you getting engaged. Look at us.
That's right.
We're fiancés, not to each other, but
Basically. We're in the same boat. Welcome to the club, dude.
Yep.
You
beat me to something. You
right.
asked 2 weeks before I did.
That's right.
And
there we go.
For all the current boyfriends that maybe have a girlfriend that's asking, it's even, well,
you can make them wait. Just
not that it gets worse because it's a really fun season, but it definitely doesn't help when one of your like best friend couples gets engaged right around the same time you do. But right before then, because then your girlfriend looks at you like, when's it going to be us? And that's always a fun time.
TikTok,
yeah,
buddy.
So I appreciate
TikTok.
Appreciate you putting the pressure on. And here we are.
Well, I felt like there was also the reverse pressure. We've been together a lot longer than you guys. I couldn't let you beat me to that.
There's true. That would have been bad for you.
Well, God's timing is perfect, man. And now we're both engaged men. Our women have rings. We do not.
Our job is over. Now they got to plan the wedding. So
yeah,
we just say, yes, I like those flowers, or I don't like the taste of that cake. That's our job.
We'll come back in a couple episodes and we'll talk about that once we have our weddings planned out. Anyway, all right, dude. Tell our people what we're going to get into today.
Yeah, so I hope you guys have enjoyed the last couple episodes with the amazing guests we've had for sure. But a topic I have had in conversation with quite a few students in the past few weeks is when do I not bring up chiropractic philosophy? Now, if you're a listener,
the answer is never.
Yeah, very rarely. I mean, I do have two pictures of BJ Palmer and Dee Dee Palmer, and sometimes people ask, "Are those your grandpas?" I say, "Not really."
Yep.
But really, I was thinking the other day, I was in conversation with a student and they asked me, like, do you ever mention innate intelligence? And I felt a little tested in that moment because as someone that was in a chiropractic fraternity that was really big on the philosophy, I was taken back because no, I do not mention innate intelligence.
Well, you do, but you don't name it directly.
Yeah, I don't name it directly. And I definitely am never like going all the way through the 33 principles with any of my practice members. And it's really for one simple reason. And it's exactly that, to keep it simple. So I know, Spencer, it's something you are also adamant about. You're very good at breaking or comparing chiropractic into other professions and things of that nature. But why would you advise, maybe not advise against or not against, but how do you go about talking about chiropractic philosophy without talking about chiropractic philosophy?
Oh, well, I mean, I think that, if most chiropractors can't even tell you what chiropractic philosophy is, how are you going to expect your layperson to do that? I think that's one. It's honestly kind of arrogant, I think, for you to go out and try to like philosophy blast and like green book thump these people. Because I mean, like, we hate that same thing, like whenever Christians go and they Bible thump people, and like we hate whenever like people hate whenever you shove whatever you think is important down their throat anyway. It doesn't matter how polarizing it is or how not polarizing it is, right? It's like, it doesn't matter if it's your favorite type of potato chip or if it's your political views. Like nobody wants to have something forced down their throat. And so I don't ever really talk about chiropractic philosophy directly. I talk about what the power of chiropractic is, and that is to put the body into a position that allows for natural healing, and the natural expression of life. I do say that and be like, well, like my whole goal is to help your body work the way that it was designed to, and so that you can live naturally. That's what I say, right? And then you just say, like, well, if your body was designed to do this, why doesn't it do that? And they're like, oh, I don't know. It's like, well, you would think that if your body had everything that it needed to do and all the nerve and could adequately communicate and could get all the signals up and down, that it should just do what it's supposed to do, right? And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. So I was like, okay, well, that's what we're gonna do. And I mean, yeah, I've done like a lot. I've like been exposed to a lot of different things in very small amounts. And I'm also naturally curious about what people do because I like to hear their perspective. And so I just ask, this is my hack for all of you chiropractic students out there. Know chiropractic philosophy so well yourself that all you have to be able to do is ask someone, hey, what do you do for work? And then they say, oh, I do this. And then you say, and then they naturally, out of respect or politeness, if it's somebody who's actually worth talking to, they're going to ask you back like, well, what do you do? And you say, well, it's kind of like what you do, and it's chiropractic and blah, 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 blah. That's literally, that's how I do it. So I don't actually like know all these things about all these things until people teach me about them. I just say, teach me about what you do. And then I just use that as a transition to teach them about what I do. And because people will value what they do and they understand what they do, and if they understand what they do and they value it, then they think that all people should have it. So if you say, oh, well, what I do is exactly what you do, except it's in your body and not on a truck or not in your house or not on your software or not for your internet or not for your cell phone or not for your financial processing systems or not for your insurance claims or nothing like that. Like, dude, it doesn't matter. Like, that's why it's important, like it doesn't matter if you're talking to the electrician. The electrician's the easiest one. It's like, you got to have the power that runs through the walls, even though you can't see it. It comes out and it powers your TV that you plug in. But even your insurance broker, right? Dude, people sell insurance claims and they're like, oh yeah, well, I sell insurance claims. It's like, well, you don't actively use your insurance every single day. And I'm like, yeah. And so your body doesn't have to actively adapt to like massive loads of stress. You don't get hit by a car every day. You don't run a marathon every day, but it sure is nice whenever you can, when you need to. And so that's why we get adjusted, is to make sure that you have the capacity to adapt to stress whenever you actually need to, instead of just like, oh, my back hurts now, and so blah, blah, blah. That's why you have an insurance policy. It's why you get adjusted for wellness care.
You can go, one step further, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I generally, like, I have 3 that I really use every time. I'm not nearly as good. I've been around Spencer when he is comparing to all the different jobs out there, but for me, trying to know the person in the consultation, I know I spend about 2 to 5 minutes really just small talking, trying to get a feel for who they are and what their beliefs are, and really where they come from. But I really stick to finances, right? And you would never just, expect to one day deposit a whole bunch of money into your savings account and like that's your retirement fund, right? You got to build and build and build. And that's what we're doing with your nervous system. It's compounding over time to develop a very functional nervous system. So then when your body does have a moment, when you do have to dip into your emergency savings fund, you adapt much faster than going into debt or anything like that. And that's what's happening with your body when we have this acute or chronic pain, is you're having to continually dip into your emergency savings fund. So that's one of them I go to a lot. The other one is exactly that, the electrical system in your house. But I also, depending if they're more electrician or kind of blue collar, but if they're a little more tech, I'll go the software route. And that we're working both on the hardware, so on the external, but mainly we're working with the software internally. And I think we talked about it on a past podcast, that there is no point in having the most amazing looking Mac in the world if you're running, 1970s Microsoft Word on it, right? Like you wouldn't want to be doing that, but that's what a lot of people are doing. And then lastly, I always go to the gym, and the gym is where a lot of people, I feel like, can make really great connections. That you're not just going to go into the gym one day and expect to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's going to take time to work on your body and start to heal from the inside out. So for me, those are my 3 go-tos. And however that looks for you, continue to keep it simple is really where I would recommend being.
Yeah, I mean, I use those exact same analogies. I use the gym. The one that I really like, that I've really been digging into, especially in this area, because everybody's building homes or remodeling homes, is I use that. It's like, I always say, like, first you have to, do your foundation and do your plumbing and all this work that nobody sees that really is the foundation for your house and what makes your house high quality. But what makes your house a home is, having Christmas, having dinner parties, raising your kids, doing trick or treat at Halloween, all those kind of things. And that's what wellness care and chiropractic is. That's not getting sick, not having back pain, being able to run a lot, being able to train really hard, not having allergies. That's what wellness care is. And we want to get everybody to that. But first, usually you have to lay this foundational work. And that's what's going in your restoration or foundational plan. It's this groundwork that we have to do to set up your body to be able to get into this phase of wellness, right? Like if you have a tent and stuff, you don't do a lot of foundational work, and you can have just as many of those things. They're just not as high quality sometimes if you're living in a tent versus if you're living in a mansion or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not that like money is that, the analogy just works well. And I think that like a lot of people, like you were saying, like you feel like I know like all these things. I really use the same analogies as you, except I just ask someone. Basically, I tell them, through our conversation, I'm pretty much asking them, all right, what analogy fits best for you as the electrician, the gym? I just ask them, what are the things that you're interested in? What are the things that you understand? What are the things that you do? And then what I do is I just use those analogies, but instead of using like the same words all the time, I just use the words that they say.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
I just tell them basically like, hey, so you know how you told me this? Yep. Like chiropractic's just like that. Yeah. Hey, you know how you do this? Healing is just like that. And
it's kind of interesting going like just now going off the top of the head, realizing I low-key kind of struggled just in that moment because I'm so used to having, whatever someone had just told me about their life or the way they relate to different things, because I always just go right back to that. And I think that's, really what I would like to discuss more is creating that relation with the person in front of you to then open up the conversation about chiropractic. I think there's been a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but I've seen a few coaching groups or been around a few chiropractors that the immediate first thing they do is talk about chiropractic without ever asking, what's going on with the person in front of them, without ever really diving into a history. And when I say diving into a history, I don't mean an hour and a half conversation. I mean hitting on a couple key things that they put down on their intake paperwork, mainly their main complaint and things of that nature. But I think really getting to know a person, at least for me, I feel is a big reason we have had success, is because we got to create that relation before we ever go into the weeds. You would never go on a first, or I would hope, you never go on a first date with someone and just, blabber about your entire life story. You get to know them first. You would start to ask these different questions and things of that nature before you ever just go head over heels and sit down at Mi Cocina or whatever Mexican restaurant or coffee shop that you picked out and just start blabbering about your life story. And so I feel like as chiropractic students, we're so eager to share, or as chiropractors, so eager to share this different philosophy and this different way of life, but we forget to sit down, look the other person in the eye, and just ask what's going on. How can I help you? What are your goals and things of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, so Mexican's really your first choice for a first date?
I mean, it may have been. I'm engaged now, so
okay, yeah. So this is kind of where I'm bringing it to. How long have you known Morgan? How long have you known her?
I mean, we met first semester of school, so almost 4 years.
So yeah, fall of 2018, right? Is whenever you guys met.
Almost 5 years. Wow.
Yeah, same thing for me and Caitlin. Like we met in January of 2019. That's like whenever I started school. And so, I mean, we didn't start dating until 2 years after that. And now we've been dating another, God, it's crazy. Like another 2.5 or 3 years. I don't really have a timeline on that. But like just up until now, are we like, yes, I feel 100% confident in this decision to commit the rest of my life to you. Right. So that's 4 months. And this is why I think it's good to have a report of findings on day 2. It's because, dude, like you're going to ask someone to commit 3 to 6 months of their life and multiple $1,000. in like one afternoon, like you're, oh yeah, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna meet them, and you're gonna be like, I'm gonna tell you everything that you need to know, and then you're gonna sign up for this plan, and I'm gonna crack your back 18 times or
Yeah.
whatever like that, you know. And you expect somebody to make that decision in 45 minutes,
Hmm.
and then we're like, I don't know why they come up, or I don't know why they ask if they can come in whenever they want. It's like, because
Hmm.
dude, it's like just like when you're dating, it's like when you're in those first stages, it's like, I'm gonna make an intentional effort to come in and see you.
Hmm.
I'm going to make an intentional, I'm going to see you whenever I want.
Yeah.
And then now that we're engaged, it's like we see them all the time, regardless
Yeah.
of
Yep.
whatever.
Yep. And I think too, like understanding for me, I can probably go through every person that said no to our care plan and tell you the exact moment, whether it was in the initial consult or in the report of findings, where I either slipped or I didn't ask enough questions to really get to know why they wanted to, start seeing a chiropractor. What was their motivation? What was the underlying, not just get out of pain, but what was their underlying motivation? And I probably can also equate that to I talk too much about myself and about how much chiropractic can help them. Um, because just like, again, in dating, no one wants to be around the person that only talks about themselves. So why would we do the same in chiropractic? Like creating a very relationship driven. And I think the big reason, another really big thing, especially if you are in a relationship, whether you're engaged, dating, married, going through some type of premarital counseling or something like that, where you have peers that help you ask the deeper questions with your significant other, really sheds light on how to have those conversations in the office. Which hopefully you're not saying like I gotta ask like dating questions in the office. No, no, no. But just in terms of really diving deeper into whys and motivations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the easiest way to get to know people is, one, you ask them about themselves, and then the easiest way to gain people's trust is let them know, hey, oh yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it comes more naturally to people than others. Like my number one strength out of all 34 strengths in the Strength Finder is the relator. So like the thing that comes most naturally to me is relating to other people where they're at in their life. So like for me, it's a no-brainer. And like that's why like everybody always like, oh dude, like you relate this to chiropractic is like super easy, is because like that's my number one strength. Like that's my
Mm-hmm.
the thing I'm best at is that. And so I literally just get people to tell me what they already understand and be like, oh yeah, chiropractic is just like that. Or hey, so you know how like you're saying that like this is what's going on. Okay, well, so you see how like this area in the nervous system is connected to those things, and you see how in your history like this happened, and this happened. They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, it would seem if there's a lot of stress on this one point in the nerve, and this nerve is out of gas and isn't connected, that it would also relate to this. That makes sense. And they're like, oh yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm. And I
And
think,
so I'm just always trying to make sure that people are always on the same page as me. And so if I'm like the major premise
yeah,
and all that,
yeah, because
I
I
don't know.
mean, I'm sure Spencer, you've heard from our friends or our peers like, oh, my practice members or my new patients, they're just not getting it. They're not getting chiropractic. Uh, and my retort is always, why do they have to get it? Why do they
Maybe
have
it's
to?
the fact that you don't get them.
Yeah, exactly. And so, really, I think having that sit down with yourself and maybe asking, why do I feel that my practice members, my patients, my clients, why do I feel they need to understand chiropractic? Is there something, is there a self-limiting belief in myself? Am I still attached to the fact that I didn't get into medical school or into PT school and now I have to defend chiropractic because no one thinks it's real or it's quackery? um, or is there a self-limiting belief in myself? Do I not have enough confidence in my hands and the service that I can provide, that I need to really bolster up chiropractic in this huge way before I even sit down and ask those questions? And so I think some self-discovery is always, at least for me, where I would uh, suggest those that really struggle or feel the need to defend chiropractic. I mean, unless you're in your first year of school, I think it's just a rite of passage to like shove chiropractic down
I
people's throats.
honestly don't think that people don't get chiropractic. I really don't, because if people didn't understand what chiropractic was doing, they wouldn't sign up and they wouldn't keep coming back.
Yeah.
And so, well, that's one thing. If you do have that issue where people come in and then they leave and then they never come back, then yeah, you're not explaining things enough, and you're not creating an understanding that is valuable enough for people to actually say, like, this is valuable for me. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that why people are not interested or do not understand the deeper part of chiropractic is because I think the one, like something we talked about at one point, is like the person who is the most interesting is the one that's most interested. And so if you're not interested enough in their life, in their care, in their progress, they are not going to be, and you're not also interested in chiropractic philosophy and science and art enough yourself, then nobody else is going to be interested either. Like, you can only take people up to the level of where you're at. And so if all you know is that chiropractic adjustment move bone, make loud pop, then like that's all people are going to get to, right? And so, and also that it also is very evident on how much you understand chiropractic by the words that you describe the adjustment and the word and the things that you say about what you do.
Yeah.
Like when you um when you go to places and people ask you about what chiropractic is, and all you can say is that it makes you healthier, it is good for your health, it helps with your mobility, it helps with all of those things, and that's like that's the deepest level you can take it. It means you don't understand things enough. And like, if there's not a bigger purpose, how are you going to ask people to give you bigger commitment?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Yeah.
go to these networking groups and people are always like, "Oh, dude, your passion always comes through." And it is because I'm passionate, because I am so passionate and I care so much and I believe in chiropractic. I think that's why part of we get the results that we get in the office
Mm-hmm.
is because I've taken the time to like go deep and like actually invest in these people's care and like watch them visit to visit to visit and literally listen to everything that they say and how are we impacting this experience for people. Like, I was just at a kids networking thing, and there was a bunch of other chiropractors there in the area who we all went to school with. And some of the people over there like really spit solid chiropractic philosophy, and other people like really have no idea what chiropractic's even surface potential is. And like, so then they come up and they're saying like, yeah, chiropractic helps your spinal mobility, it helps decrease pain, it helps decrease headaches, and that's it. And like, I'm literally over there in the corner being like, chiropractic has the ability to literally change the course of someone's life. And the miracles that you see that happen in these kids are so important that every single child has to be checked at least once in their life. Because if they do not get checked, they're like, these are the things that we're able to catch, like with the chiropractic analysis and with the insight scans, that are literally the answers to everything that these parents are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of being like, it can make your kid poop, like,
Yeah.
that's so, it's honestly sad to know that, like,
And I think too, even if it, I mean, there's also, you can very much know the buzzwords too, right? Like it's going to optimize your nervous system.
it's so stupid, dude. What are
But
you
if you
optimizing?
if
Like,
you've never, I know for me, like I do my best. I say it all the time, but I'm never going to recommend something to someone if I haven't done it myself. So if I'm going to say that chiropractic can optimize your nervous system, and I've never taken the time to understand what an optimal nervous system is, and that's pretty silly, right?
you better be tracking your nerve.
Yeah,
You better have your own stats to look at
yeah,
it. Like,
yep.
I tell people all the time, like, chiropractic raises your heart rate variability, and they're like, "How do you know?" I was like, "I wear a Whoop, and every time I get adjusted, my Whoop scores go up
Mm,
every single time." I got adjusted, my Whoop score went from 112 to 147.
yep,
Some of these people that are in my practice, that are in my Whoop community, their HRV is like 35.
yep.
And they're like, "I don't know why I get so tired. I don't know why I get so gassed in my workout. I don't know why I get so stressed." Like, okay, well, it's because your HRV sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
And it always goes back to your nervous system. And if you're listening to this, you're like, man, I just don't have enough experience. I would go back to the episode we just recorded with Tony Ebel, where you got to get around these chiropractors that are spitting out the truth. And it's not. I don't think Spencer. I think we definitely have the ability, but we don't have enough time under tension to really showcase. I mean, I think we do, but there are some heavy hitters in the chiropractic profession that if you're around them just for a day, you're like, whoa, this is this is not what I'm getting in school. And it's a shame that we don't get it in school, or maybe even in our associateships. But like, yeah, you get around those people for a day or a weekend or whatever, and just soak it in. Don't even try to understand it. Just soak it in and just feel the effect of being around these people that have just been on it for 10, 15, 20 years. And you'll just feel different for sure.
I don't think that I think that we definitely are at somewhat of that level, and I think that we can say that we do those same things. I don't think that we have the right to declare it out to everyone else. But I know, like, I know, like, if it came to down brass tacks, like Tony and I could provide the same level of care that like Tony does, and like I know the level of care like that Denisa and them provide. Like I can definitely do that. I know, like, all these things. I might not have the reps that they have, but I definitely have the ability that they do. And we just haven't earned the right to say, like, buy my coaching course and that kind of stuff. But I think, to kind of summarize it, I think if you want to stop, if you want people to understand chiropractic more, you yourself need to understand chiropractic better. And then instead of trying to like just spit lines and quotes out of books or Instagram posts that like you're watching Tim Young and stuff put out there, and you're trying to spit this, he's talking to chiropractors. Like those words are for you.
Yeah.
You're talking to the accountant next door. You're talking to stay-at-home mom. You're talking to all these
at the
things.
coffee shop. Like,
yes.
And get to know them. Get to know them as people. Like before you, like just as we, we're talking earlier, before I asked Morgan to marry me, we dated and got to know each other for a really long time before I was ready to make that decision. And it's the same with the people in your community. Get to know them. Be interested in them before you ask them anything, let alone come on in for a 30-minute, 1 hour consultation at your office or at the clinic and things of that nature, and ask them questions. Get to know them, and that way you can start to hit on different things. Oh, how's this going? You can check in with them, and you don't have to be their friend, but you could definitely be someone that they're excited to see when you walk into their shop or into their office, or when they run into you in the community.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I was at a coffee shop studying for boards one time with a group of people, and then this guy was like talking to one of the baristas and was saying, like, she's like, oh my God, that's cool. She's like, chiropractors, I've been looking for one. I've had I have back problems. And then he's like, yeah, well, your body has an innate intelligence that, can heal your body naturally and stuff. And when we optimize your nervous system, that evokes the innate intelligence, and we can put a constructive force to elicit the coordination of your nervous system. Dude, that conversation should be like, oh yeah, we see people like that all the time. I would love to have you come in. Just let me know when you're available. That's how that should work.
Or even do like a mini consult, like, oh man, that's a bummer. Like, how'd you hurt your back? Like, and then start to just open up that conversation. And
oh yeah, what's that like for you? That's literally it.
Yeah.
Be a real human.
Yeah. Yep. But I think that's a good title for the episode. Be a real human. And I think once we as professions start to get back to that, we're going to see some, this profession continue to skyrocket. I think it's already on a really great trajectory. But I think, as we kind of, by no means are we saying get rid of philosophy. We need the philosophy. We need even more of it. And at the same time,
make it digestible.
Live in two different worlds, right? When you're around your chiropractic friends, talk about chiropractic as deep as you want to go. And when you're around people that aren't chiropractors, be a human just as you are before chiropractic school, and get to know them and start to ask better questions.
Yep. I don't think I've said lumbar spine in a long time. I just say low back.
True. Yep. I'll tell people, and I'm like, in case you want to know, I'm about to adjust L4. And they're like, cool.
Yep. I just say, this is L4. It's the fourth one in your low back. You have 5 of them. And they're like, oh, really? Like, using anatomical terms, well, I ask people, this is why it's important to know. Because if you have a nurse that's in there and you're like, this your gas pedal, this is your arm, they're like, yeah, I understand about the nervous system. And so you're like, oh, okay, cool. So this is where your sympathetic plexus lies, and this is where you feel like these things. And when your rhomboid's engaged, it puts pressure on the blah, blah, blah. Then you're like, yes, now we can talk about those things versus.
And I ask permission before I go that far. I'm like, we just had a nurse last week, and I was like, I can go as deep as you want to go. How deep? And she's like, honestly, pretty burnt out. As simple as you want is great for me. Awesome. Right. And then I have other people that aren't nurses, but they, for whatever reason, have a huge background in anatomy, and they're they're like, oh, you don't have to like dumb it down basically for me. Like I actually want to know. And I'm like, also really cool. And so we go down big rabbit holes.
Yep. So
But,
other than that, use real words, use real talk to real people, be a real human.
Connect.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the What Now podcast. Give us a follow on the grams. Give us a follow on wherever else we're at. And if you like this episode, share it with someone. If you're a student and you need to reach out to us, hit us up. We're here to help you guys out. And
1,000%.
if you like this, tag us in a post, share it, and we're always here for you. Peace.
Peace out. Y'all have a great week.